Okay.
Okay. I'm sure we have all seen the commercials and the funny pictures, well, some of them are funny, about like African children that don't have running water or not enough food. I know there's like this one picture, I should have put it up there, but it's like a little boy and he's like in a diaper, and that there's like always like, it's kind of like a meme, like people make jokes with it.
Yeah. So you're telling me that.
Okay. So instead of, trying to get us to donate money to these organizations when we don't really know where our money is actually going, I think we should donate something more, which would be our time and love to these kids. I believe that everybody should adopt, even if you can have kids or you're not married or whatever. I think everybody should adopt because it benefits everybody in the circle. It benefits the birth mother, which most of the time, if a child is put up for adoption, their birth parents cannot provide for them as much as a stable family could. And of course it benefits the adopted child because, like I said, they probably wouldn't have gotten as much stability if they would have lived in a different lifestyle. And it benefits the adopted parents because if you can't have a child, or the thing where they like do the egg and implant it in your stomach and stuff, because that's very expensive. So it benefits everybody in the circle. And some people that are adopted is Steve Jobs, and one of the first ladies, Nancy Reagan. And if she was not adopted, she may have never been First Lady because her opportunities to meet him may have, not been there. And we may have not had all of our Apple stuff from Steve Jobs. Here it shows, this was what adopted teens or children and biological children that were raised, and the differences. And it kind of shocked me here because males actually went farther in their education than even girls that were, in their biological families. And then obviously females scored higher than males. So the number of siblings was also decreased. It could have been, because their parents couldn't have had any more children, or because, they were so focused on that one child. They weren't in poverty as much because you have to go through so many things to adopt, that they make sure that the parents are stable. I also found that they were happier in 10 years compared to children that were born into their biological family. They have more support, and that goes kind of without saying because, most children that are adopted are planned. I mean, you kind of have to go through a long process, so it's not kind of just like on a whim. And I'm sure we've all seen the movie The Blind Side, and I kind of don't really have to summarize that, but I found a good quote from the mom, the adopted mom. He had a much greater impact on our lives than we did on his. And this kind of brought my attention to as much things as we think that we do for the child that we adopt is kind of backwards too. If you can't have kids, this child has given you an opportunity to be a mother, to be a father, and they also teach you a lot of things. And I know there's a lot of cons to adopting. Money can be a big problem. I mean, it takes a lot of money to adopt a child. But a lot of times, it can almost be the same as having your own child as far as doctor's appointments and that kind of stuff, because you really still do pay for that for the birth mother. Adding another child, and I want to adopt my child first, so I won't have to deal with children that I've already had. But it can be an adjustment for your children, but I won't have that problem. So it's not really a con for me, but I guess it could be if it was your last child. A personal relationship, a lot of parents are afraid that they won't have that same bond or connection that they do with their biological children, if they have any. I read something, and I know this kind of like counter-argues what I'm saying, but I did find something where it said that a parent would die for their biological child, but they would do anything for their adopted child, not die. So I kind of like put in perspective about I guess it just kind of depends on the parent of how willing you are to love your child. There's another thing that I haven't really thought about is how are you supposed to tell your child that they are adopted? And there are numerous books that have been published to help you kind of show your child that, you know, you weren't from me, but you know, we're still a part of each other. And another thing is you're not my mother, I hate you, I want to go back to my, you know, real mom or whatever. And that's something that, you know, a lot of children do. They have outbursts, not just your adopted child. And it could be because you didn't buy them something or they want to do something. So you also have to remember kids are kids. And another thing is food. I read that, and I didn't even think of this, that children in less, you know, lower households or where they came from, orphanages or whatever, they oftentimes don't have a lot of food, and so they're kind of afraid of where they're, you know, am I going to have food tomorrow? And so a lot of children will hoard their food, they'll gorge it, or they're picky. So you just kind of have to assure your child that food will come and that, you know, they're in a good, stable environment. So I think everybody should adopt.